So this was Ilya playing black and Joe taking white. Let's take a look. All fine so far, no mistakes. I would say this move at R15 is maybe a little bit questionable for black, because white gets the really nice move of attaching on the outside, or excuse me, Atariing on the outside, and black connects, and this shape is just really quite ugly. Now white gets to make a strong position. It's kind of creating this vector line, and if you look, the vector line for black over here is quite low. It's really only going to be third or fourth territory, whereas white's kind of mapping out half of the board. So just positionally, I think white ends up a lot better here. And again, it kind of comes from playing R15. If you extend up here, white plays here, black blocks, you still get to keep the majority of the corner. So you're not going to lose too much. So I don't know if anyone's watched or read Hikaru no Go, but I remember specifically that this shape was in Hikaru no Go. It was Sai saying to Hikaru that he should never even consider a move like O17. He should only be playing a move like R13. Anyone want to guess why?
No. Hello, everybody.
Hey, Ryan.
Hey, Ryan.
So the reason why Sai was so critical of this move is you're only playing this move really to live. They're playing this amount of move to get territory, right? But you're not really putting much pressure on these three stones. By playing here, not only are you living, but you're also putting more pressure on this group, and it needs to kind of create a base for itself. Later on, you have follow-up moves like this. You even have potentially the cut here later on, depending on what happens later. So, there's a lot more Aji that exists here after this. Once you've played here, the value of this stone at R14 becomes that much smaller. And, even though you might say, okay, well, what happens if white plays here now? Well, you don't really need to worry about this move when you've already captured this stone. So that's why you typically don't see that O17, O16 move. You'll see the Atari directly.
Not if you're looking to kill, but it looks like just getting that corner surrounded, giving all that influence facing the bottom and the top left side is a bit of a negative in exchange for the points of the corner.
Well, we talked about how this was a bad result for black to begin with.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. We're trying to make the best of a bad situation.
Okay.
This move it's maybe a little odd. Typically you'll see a Shamari, I think. You might also see a pincer here. It's kind of hard to call this a bad move, but I don't think it maps out necessarily enough territory. Because you still owe a move something over here, which means that this space is available too. So it's going to be hard to actually map out the side territory. Yes, you get to keep the corner territory, but it's not something we see very often. So I think this would be more common or something like this. This is definitely too early. Everything is surrounded by white here. Black playing here is just much too early. Much better for black just to start taking territory. Something like this might happen. And this builds up a nice wall for black on this side and reduces how much white could have gotten over here. The problem with this type of move is this is only ever going to be white's points. Black really shouldn't expect to make points here. Black should expect to get attacked. And so, after this, white's building up territory on the right side. And what's black getting? Well, not much. A weak group. Right? Black may not be in danger of dying anytime soon, but black didn't achieve anything. Black just took away. And by doing that, white was able to solidify. So I think this move at P3 was just much too early. Probably much better just to play a large corner move over here. This is probably okay. It's aggressive, but I think it's fine. Something like this might happen. I think this is probably what black is expecting to happen. But again, it's still a nice result for white. It's territory on the right side, territory on the left side, and kind of a floating group here. You know, the group is not really in danger of dying, but it's also not doing very much. I think what happened in the game, this I think is just too aggressive. If I were white, I would just play here and just take the corner territory. You know, if white takes, you can do something like this, and this is kind of a floating Panuki. It's not really great, and white solidified all this corner territory, so this would also be a really nice result for white.
Okay.
And there's very little Aji there for white as well. Yeah, like you might be worried about this push, but there's really not too much Aji that exists here. Even if white plays, even if black plays like this, there's not really that much Aji in the corner, and white's just made a massive territory. So I think this is probably a bit of a mistake to doing this cut. This move is maybe a little bit questionable now because it gives black a little bit more strength on the outside. So later on, when white plays like this, black can get a nice capture here, and that's, you know, a little bit better shape than the kind of empty Panuki that it was there before. And I say like that empty Panuki because white could still Atari the stone, in which case it's not actually an eye. So this would be a little bit better shape for black, I think. So that's why we went Atari here. So, and then unfortunately, also, if you do play here now, like we were going to do before, black does have a chance to sacrifice, which could be a little bit annoying for white. You know, black makes some territory and white gets the outside. It's a trade, but I think this is a better result for black than it should have been otherwise. So it kind of goes to show kind of the detriment of Ataring at M2 first. And then white plays here. Because I guess white was afraid of that cut underneath. Even still, I might still play it. I'm not sure how this results at 0-3 is really going to work out for white. You don't want to make this exchange quite yet. Much better just to play here. And the reason for that is there's actually kind of a cool Tsuji here where you can play at 1. White has to play here. Black plays here. Play here. Play here. And you can get a nice little squeeze on these stones over here. And so you can get all these moves on the outside for free. Whereas if you just play here directly, white plays here, white plays here, you no longer get this move for free. It's no longer Sente on the group. So leaving open that weakness at N2 is actually quite nice. And you know, white doesn't really want to play here because that makes the ladder that much worse later on as well. So it's not this move at L2 is not something that white necessarily wants to play. Any questions on that? Otherwise, I'll keep going.
No.
Kind of a little bit more of a subtle concept, but you know, playing at O2 is a little bit of Ajikeshi. So playing the ladder breaker. White takes, yep. So black's gonna. So unfortunately, the ladder breaker doesn't really work here because normally you play the ladder breaker and it would be forcing for white to answer. But since black gets to play here, if white plays another move over here, now black gets to play here and kill these 4 stones. Right. So white doesn't really have time to play this ladder breaker.
Okay.
You know, I think that white should. You know, maybe white plays here or something like that, and just kind of deal with the bad result. But and you know, then maybe you can play here because if black does play here, then you can connect underneath. You know, if that's what you want to if that's what you want to try to get at. But I think just playing the ladder breaker is just not going to work because again, this move at L4 is Sente for black.
Yeah.
So it looks like this is what happened in the game. You know, again, everything should be focusing on this area right now. This is absolutely massive. This is a 30-point swing. Unfortunately, this D2 move is, I think, something that a lot of Q players fall into. They think that it's the vital shape, but it's actually this is just locally alive. Not to mention that there's all sorts of Aji on the outside over here.
Yeah.
So if you want to kill the group, you need to Hane here first.
Okay.
But because black is so strong here, it's going to be really tough to actually kill this group, because it's not like you can play the killing move now,
Yeah.
because now black has all this strength here. So if this is what were to happen, black would easily be able to kill these stones before these stones would die. So I think you'd have to protect here first, but the problem is you have a cut here, you have some weaknesses here. Again, you have this, because this black group is so strong, it's going to be really tough to live here. So white's just way too busy right now. Again, white has a weakness over here, it has a weakness over here. So I don't think white has the time to try to kill. I think white needs to be making eyes. So for that reason, maybe instead of when black plays here, instead of playing here, maybe better just to play here and just build up that outward influence. So something like this might happen, or maybe something like that. I'm not sure. Again, this is still going to be a really tough game for white because black has this. Not to mention that black also has this cutting point here, which is going to be quite nasty too. So maybe white just has to play here. But again, this is all really tough for white. Black's made solid territory over here. Because of this strong position, this white influence here is not doing very much. And as soon as black plays here, it's basically game over. And again, just white's too busy in this fight here. So it looks like black ended up making a little bit of a mistake here. Again, if black plays here and white plays here, since this group is locally alive, you can run out. You have time to run out with these stones. In which case, these stones are still weak. So you could peep here, and the nice benefit about peeping here is that if white plays here, you can now play here. So if you want to try to get this peep in, that'll prevent these 4 stones from coming back alive. Yeah. And obviously, if you play like this is still a good result for black, because you get to either separate these stones or you get to attack these stones, one of the two. Again, just white's too busy. I think white has to give up something, but it's kind of tough for white because none of white stones are really give up. You can give up without losing a lot, right? Whereas black stones, black could give up these 2 stones if it really wanted to, because of all the gains that it's made over here and in the corner as well. Oops, sorry. But white ended up playing a nice sequence here that allowed it to come back a bit. So there's kind of an interesting liberty race. Unfortunately, I don't know if this works, but this is what comes to mind, and I'm trying to see if there's any sort of like way to finagle this liberty race in black's favor, but I don't think so, unfortunately. But definitely something white's gonna have to be worried about later. So even though white might be alive now, there's a lot of aji here, and almost any move on the outside is going to be forcing or sente, right? Like this move here is going to be sente. Yeah. It's possible that this move here is going to be sente. So definitely something that white needs to be worried about. Unfortunately, I don't know if these exchanges are really helping right now in trying to kill this group. Because again, you play here, black here. You connect, Atari, connect. It's this. There's still enough liberties here where black has 3 liberties, white has 1, 2, 3, 4 liberties. I guess it's probably safe to say. And there's also a ko here for white to start. So it's gonna be hard to actually kill this white group right now. So I would probably save this for later. Although now, actually, so if white, let's see. No, it doesn't work. Yeah. So kind of just a lot of moves that were, I don't want to say wasted, but I think were too much aji keshi, and now white gets to completely kill these 3 stones. And And unfortunately, you can't even kill this group because even if you play here, white plays here, black, boom, boom, boom. You know, you really didn't get very much over here, unfortunately. Because you already had the thick wall on the outside, so the amount of thickness you got really didn't change, and white's now perfectly alive there. You know, kind of a loss in terms of Aji. Yep, that seems big. I would say this move's kind of questionable. I know you didn't play it, Joseph, and I don't think Ilya is here, but it's trying to build up center territory, right? I guess that's the idea behind it. But white's strong here, white's strong here. There's no way that what black's going to be able to fill up, you know, a full wall over here on both sides to really get that territory. And so what black is really doing is it's just making this white territory on the right side that much stronger, right? So, you know, before you have some amount of weaknesses here, right? There's still this weak stone here, potential Aji. The more stones you add over here, the harder it is to take advantage of that Aji. So it's kind of mapping out center territory that no one really cares about, because white doesn't care about this territory because it knows that black has all these stones here. So again, kind of going along that same line of like, we don't really care about this territory. It might be better just to start more actively taking away the territory that black would be getting here. You know, if it's something like this, black's gonna be happy to play here. And now when you look at the stone, it's like, okay, well, I exchanged this for this, but what did I get out of this versus what I black out as? Well, black mapped out an extra 15, 20 points. I mapped out 3 points, 4 points.
Right.
I think because so what's the purpose behind this move, Joe?
I don't know. I was not really sure what I was thinking. I was trying to like halfway between getting expanding my territory on the left and invading on the upper side. Maybe not doing either.
So maybe not doing enough of either. I think it's possible.
Yeah.
But why would you see this move? What would be the situation in which you would see a move like E15?
Not.
Usually you would see it. Let's say black has this type of formation here.
Okay.
Something like this. You might see it now.
Okay.
It's kind of meant to be a light move that could either attack over here, or not necessarily attack, but I could either break this area over here or break this area here. If white plays like this, black plays here, white can play here. If black plays here, white can play here. That's kind of the purpose behind it. It's meant to be this light, flexible shape. But, you know, at the position that we were in the game,
yeah, that's what I meant.
It doesn't quite make sense, right? Because we'd rather either have the stone here to take away the territory that black could map out, or we'd rather do a direct invasion here.
Okay.
Right? Here, if you play like this, you know, it's going to be pretty clear to me that black's going to want this territory, right? Black's going to care more about this territory than it is about this, unless black wants to attack, which is also possible, right? But I think in general, black's going to want to play here, in which case, now, do you really want this F? Like, think about this. If this was the exchange, you played here, white played here, would you play here now? Maybe not, right? Maybe you just take this as a local victory and invade here, right? But the problem with this move is now black gets to protect this weak side that it had. So if you kind of change the order of the exchange, the move at 3 doesn't make as much sense.
Okay.
Okay. I want to be mindful of time. Should I stop here, Milan?
Yeah, I guess we went through a lot of game. Ilya just joined us. I don't know if he has any questions about the game.
Did you hear me?
We can hear you now. Yeah, if you were speaking before, we couldn't.
Okay.
Is there a particular spot in the game where you have any questions?
Can I use this group uh, for the uh, uh, jump? I mean on tank and on something like that.
You're talking the middle group here.
Да.
Yes.
So I mentioned this a little bit before, but it probably bears repeating. I mentioned it at this point with this like P7 move. Unfortunately, this center territory, or whatever center you're trying to map out, it's going to be near impossible to get, right? Because you have one strong side, but white also has two strong sides, right? So it doesn't really matter who tries to get it. Neither side is going to be able to. And so if you played the center move, well, you still have to seal off this over here, this over here, this over here, this over here in order to really get some amount of territory. But you've exchanged 4 moves elsewhere on the board in order to do that, or 5 moves actually. You exchanged 1, 3, 5, 7, 9 in order to do that. And when you look at the amount of territory that you get here, well, it's only about 20 points. It's really not all that much. And so you spent 5 moves to get 20 points, whereas white has taken away this entire top area here, expanded its side here, and still gets another move over here to solidify this area. So the center, not just for black, but for white too, is not interesting. Neither side wants to play it. And so when I mentioned this point earlier, I was talking in reference to P7, because P7 is trying to map out center territory, but at the cost of making this white group stronger on the inside. And again, even if you play the center move, it's still very easy for white to break in and take away your territory. If you think of it like a bag, right? If you have a bag, you have to seal up the top somehow. But if if your opponent is also trying to throw stuff in there, you're just not gonna be able to seal it up fast enough. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And if I
It makes sense.
Yep. Okay. Joe, any questions on your end?
No, thank you.